I had a chance to talk to Todd Alpert. He wrote an article about going beyond fun with STEM education, and he said something in that interview that really struck a chord with me.
I'll give you another example. I went to a local Maker Fest and was excited to see that there were 4 different stations with 3D printers. And the kids, were demonstrating the 3D printer. And the question I asked was, how does the printer work? And every answer I got was, this is how you use the software. So they were having a blast printing, things in 3D, but somehow it stopped at just the fun of consuming it and the fun of an in-the-moment demonstration and not doing exactly what you're saying, which is how to figure out and work backwards to really hook them so that they're motivated to figure out, well, actually, how does this thermal printing work?
You see, he talks about the idea of a 3D printer and presenting it to students, but do they ever get a chance to actually think about how the 3D printer is working? Is the 3D printer just a black box to students? So that became the challenge for me. How can I get students to think about how a 3D printer works? So I started off by having kids write about that first. They saw a 3D printer in action, and then I had them write down what they thought was going on behind the scenes. And I introduced them to the idea afterwards about all the different types of 3D printers that are out there. They have different looks, they have different shapes, but for the most part, the 3D printers that they are seeing are of a certain kind of 3D printer, the kind that melts plastic and puts it in the right spot. Earlier, I made a video to show students the different parts of a 3D printer that I had access to. It was printing different parts that they have already designed, and I wanted to show them the different parts that made a 3D printer and give them a general overview of what each of these parts did. I also took some time to show students that there are different types of filament, different colors, different materials. Some can be flexible, some can look metallic, things like that, just to give them an idea that they're not limited to the prints that they only saw in class. And then I thought I'd draw from something that our students already had experience with. A lot of students have done the Hour of Code, and recently Hour of Code used the BB-8 character from Star Wars, and they had kids use the code to make the little robot move. And I thought, that is very similar to what a 3D printer does. The 3D printer uses code and moves a little robot, the little robot being the printer. And so I thought I'd draw a parallel between those two. One of the tutorials at code.org is actually a drawing tutorial, and it uses a little character that holds a pen and drags that pen in different directions as you program it with different blocks. And we've seen amazing things done by very young students. And I thought, this is very similar to what a 3D printer does. It uses code and draws out things, except those things are in 3 dimensions. To bring this idea closer to students, I needed something that they could connect with, and I chose a hot glue gun. The hot glue gun has, similar ideas. The 3D printer uses filament, a hot glue gun uses a glue stick. The 3D printer has a hot tip that melts the filament, the glue gun has a hot tip that melts the glue. So what I decided to do is have the students act as the code. They were going to be the code that tells me, in this case, I was the robot, what to do. I plugged something in over here that you might be familiar with. Have you seen that before?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me what to do.
Ready, set, say. Move right. Ready, set, say. Move down. Ready, set, say. Move left. Ready, set, say. Move up. New layer. Now should we move higher?
No, what do I do?
Higher.
What is it?
Move higher.
Okay, pull my arm up a little bit.
Move right. Ready, set, say. Move down. Ready, set, say. Move left. Ready, set, say. Move up.
If I hold it up for you, like that, you can see that it's got layers to it now, right?
Yeah. Looks like
After that, I gave the students a little bit more information by using a website called 3D Genius, G-Code Visualizer. Now, this is kind of advanced for students, but it gave them a kind of peek behind the curtain. This website will allow you to upload a design, and then it'll show you all the code, and it'll also show you in a 3D visual what it's going to look like as it draws it out layer by layer. After that, I had the students go back to the writing exercise one more time and see what they thought about 3D printing now. I asked them, now, what do you know about 3D printing? How would you describe it now? And a lot of students made a connection between the idea that coding computer programming can tell robots what to do, tells the 3D printer what to do, and they got that and made that connection. Overall, I think the lesson was a success. The students wrote about the code that was inside of each design, and they talked about how the printer would follow that code to trace out and draw out the shape that they were hoping to see. So if you get a chance to do 3D printing in the classroom, I highly recommend giving the students a chance to think about how the printer is working. Give it a shot.